stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
And all the way back around to emotional sobriety. And what is emotional sobriety? When we're talking about this stuff, what are we talking about? All right. So, still sharing. That's why I'm yakking. All right. Nobody's here yet. It's no biggie. No biggie. Just got out of the shower here. At this point, it will just be like this for like a month. I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to bitch about it. And then I'll get it work. It's a little too hot for that right now. All right. Do you guys support my Broncos? So, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about how we share at AA meetings. All right. Now I understand that we want people to speak at meetings, but we got to be a little more careful, because anymore I go to meetings and it's usually just people telling me how their day was, and I don't go to meetings to find out how your day was. I'm sorry, but I don't. What makes you think that a bunch of us care how your day was? No. We have a topic and we talk about that topic. And if you don't know anything about that topic yet, that is okay. Okay. You can certainly speak what's on your mind or what you think you know about it too. That's okay too, because there really are no wrong answers, right? We're trying to figure this out. Okay. But AA is not a place for you to come, and what we need to do is stop asking or talk about whatever's on your mind. That's what we need to do. If you want to do that, go to Celebrate Recovery. They're great for that. That's actually what they're for. They allow for cross-talking, and they do daily check-ins and things like that. And if that's what you want, then go there. Okay. AA is not for that. Okay. AA, those groups are not there to solve your problems. We are not therapists. We are not doctors. Okay. We only have our experience, and we got to keep it at that. So thank you for letting me talk about that. That made everybody run, but that's okay. Welcome to the Daily Trudge. My name is Dion, and I'm probably not your cup of tea. So if you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. All right. They're like, no, talking like that, you're tired. Oh, no, emotional. I would have stuck around for the emotional sobriety, man. All right. So let's get started. I am reading from, this is where I get it from, Language of the Heart, page 236. You'd think I'd have that memorized. You can tell it's where, because my book looks like it's falling apart right there. Because it is. I mean, I could literally take these 2 pages out now. So, let's see if anybody else shows up. If not, it would just be a shortened version. No biggie. The Next Frontier, Emotional Sobriety, written in January 1958. I did not hear about this myself until about 5-6 years ago. I had not seen this before either. And it made me wonder why this has not been a part of AA for quite some time. And you'll see why. This article is the substance of a letter Bill wrote to a friend who also had troublesome depressions. Who here has had problems with depression? I've had problems with depression my whole life. Okay. And considering we've been putting a depressant down our gullet for years and years, it's not surprising that we might come out depressed, at least for a little bit. Okay. Some of us, this depression holds on though. So I think that many oldsters who have put our AA booze cure to severe but successful tests, they still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Okay. So the severe but successful tests are the 12 steps. And gosh, yes, we have put them to use, and severe and successful tests, right? Perhaps they will be the spearhead for the next major development in AA, the development of much more real maturity and balance, which is to say, humility in all our relations with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. I wish it would have happened, but it didn't. See, society as a whole is no way going to grasp this, not yet. Even now, it's going to be hard for people to understand. Without talking about it, a lot of people don't get emotional sobriety correct and what we're trying to get to here. Now, that doesn't mean that you are wrong. Okay, you're allowed to have your opinion on it. That's the great thing about being here and being human is you get those, right? So those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romances, urges quite appropriate to the age of 17, proved to be an impossible way of life when we're at the age of 47 or 57. And what they're saying there is when we start to drink, what happens is we are emotionally stunted right there. I started drinking when I was about 13. So emotionally, I was a 13-year-old for a good portion of my life. And what they're saying is these adolescent urges that we all have for top approval, right? Being popular in school, getting the good grades, maybe the valedictorian, having parents proud of you, things like that, isn't going to work. Okay. We can no longer go up to our mom when we're 32 and say, look how high I can jump. Okay. We can't say, I just got a new pair of shoes. Actually, that still happens to me. I get a new pair of shoes. I think I can run faster, Right. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. The first time I read that, Bill pissed me off because he was right. He hit me right between the eyes with that one because I knew that I had failed to grow up emotionally. Yeah. See, my PTSD and my anxiety and stuff makes me think that everybody else is the enemy, but really that's not the truth. It's not the truth. Not everybody's against me. Not everybody is devising plans in order to take out Dion. Okay, that's not how life works. Some of that was paranoia. Right? My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible and how very painful to discover finally that all along we've had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still being unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. I understand that also. Sometimes, when I was going through my PTSD, I haven't had a flashback in a long, 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 long time. But those were uncontrollable. They were out of my control. I'd want to tell, a good example would be I want to tell my wife how much I loved her. It would just come out, fuck off. I couldn't believe the things that came out of my mouth. Right. And I had to get that under control. I had to go to therapy. I had to work through those things. Was it all my fault? No, but I'm the one that needs to live with me, man. So how to translate a right mental conviction into right emotional result. Man, that was so hard for me. And I've worked hard at it. And I have found a very, very good balance. I found a good balance. Doesn't always work. There's quite a few days I come on here, I'm having a hard day, and you guys help me work through it, right? But that's just part of being human. I don't go to the extremes that I used to. How to translate mental conviction to right emotional result and so into easy, happy, and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotics problem, it's the problem of life itself for all of us who have gotten to the point of real willingness to hew the right principles in all of our affairs. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. That's the place so many of us AA ulcers have come to, and it's a hell of a spot, literally. How shall our unconscious from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought in line with what we actually believe, know, and want. How to convince our dumb, raging, and hidden Mr. Hyde becomes our main task. Who is Mr. Hyde in this case? Depression is Mr. Hyde. Okay. With my depression, I'll come on here, I'll look fine, dandy, everything else, I'll leave, and then I'm back to being depressed. Happens to me quite often. Yeah. Because see, I feel good here. There's people here. I'm talking. Things are going on. There's a lot of people that we see in our lives that we think they're doing well, and one day they're just gone. Okay? And that's what they're hiding. They're hiding their depression. We usually hide it behind things like toxic positivity. Yeah. Robin Williams is a great example. If you've seen some of his stuff where he talks about what happens to him off camera, man, I could relate to that man. I really could. I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I see many benighted ones. Folks like you and me commencing to get results. Last autumn, depression, having no really rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. What does chronic mean? It means a lot, right? If you smoke any weed, you know what I mean when I say chronic. It means a lot. Overuse, abused. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It's better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, all right, but why didn't it work? Suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence, almost absolute dependence on people or circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and my specifications, I had fought for them. And when defeat came, so did my depression. Doesn't that feel like a setup? Because it is. It is a setup. Okay? Remember, we're mentally ill. We're mentally ill. We don't quite, I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't quite catch all of this when I was growing up. Somebody had to take me aside and explain these things to me. And what was going on is I was utilizing love the wrong way. I didn't understand it. Okay. And it was my wife that really taught me love. And how to it's quite often that I go to my wife so that I can figure out how to go to my children. Right. Because my children are a lot like me, and she's very, very good at working with me. She doesn't work against me. She doesn't do it for me. She does it with. And it makes it very, very comforting. I'm very lucky to have my wife, man. There wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love Francis a workable, joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Fatal, yeah, because what's going to happen when we don't get what it is that we want? We're going to get angry, and anger is the dubious luxury of normal people. Anger leads to depression, man, or the other way around. But when you combine those two, that can lead to resentment, and we cannot have that. Resentment will kill everything that you have done. Okay, just as fast as alcohol will. You don't need alcohol in your body for your disease to progress. Because I had over the years undergone a little bit of spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightening dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer, I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA, indeed upon any set of circumstances. Ooh, circumstances. And putting our expectations on that. That's God's job, remember? Remember, that's God's job. Okay. Now, I want you to hear what he said here. I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action. Okay. You have this will. You have and you can take those actions. Okay. Once you've made a decision, do something about it. Because remember, making a decision is non-action. There has been no action in there. Okay. Here comes one of my favorite parts. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions I saw were really the extra dividends of having love, offering love, and expressing a love appropriate to each relation of life. This line caught me so well and made me understand. It simplified it for me so well that I finally understood. Okay, that it wasn't that I didn't love, it's that I was not being appropriate. I didn't know how, right? Okay. My instincts did not need to be a part of this anymore. They didn't. And what that's done, and now since I come to the realization that I have these emotional dependencies upon other people, upon circumstances, upon other things, then that frees myself to be able to love like St. Francis did. It is better to love than to be loved, because when you love, it's automatic. It comes back. It comes back. So remember, it's an unconditional love. That means that there's no expectations involved. Okay. Well, I love her, but she doesn't love me back. That's an expectation. Okay. Let's say you run up and hold the door open for somebody, they don't say you thank you and you get mad. That was an expectation on a circumstance. I don't usually read all of this, but nobody's here and fuck it, let's do it. Plainly, I could not avail myself to God's love until I was able to offer it back to him by loving others as he would have me. And I couldn't possibly do that as long as I was victimized by false dependencies. I was the victim and I made myself the victim. Okay. For my dependency meant demand, a demand for possession and control of people and the conditions surrounding me. While these words absolutely dependency may look like a gimmick, they are the ones that help me to trigger my release into the present degree of stability and quietness of mind, qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering love to others regardless of the return to me. That's what if I don't do it that way, I go loopy. I start to revert back, okay, to what I was. You know, some people said, somebody had asked, "What are you doing for Thanksgiving?" And I said, "Well, I'm probably doing service work," and God bless their hearts because they're looking out for me. But then may I suggest that you try and spend time with your family and loved ones. Well, that they're not around. That's why I do service work. Okay. So that I'm not hurting that day. So I'm not really doing service work. I'm loving others so that I can feel loved that day. I can supply my own love. Isn't that neat? Isn't that weird? Is that weird? All right. I'm going to be doing some quick reading here now. This seems to be the primary healing circuit and outgoing love of God's creation and his people, by means of which we avail ourselves of his love for us. It is most clear that the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken, and broken at depth. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. It's kind of like when you're pulling the weeds, you got to get that root. You got to get that root. If it doesn't come out, and you got to get yourself a spade or a shovel and get that motherfucker out of there, right? Spiritual calculus, you say? Nope, not a bit. Watch any AA of 6 months working with a new 12-step case. If the case says, to the devil with you, the 12-stepper only smiles and turns to another case. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next case responds and starts to give love and attention to other alcoholics, yet gives none back to him, the sponsor's about it anyway. Yeah. The whole point of my sponsees is for them to move on from me. I want them to be bigger and better than me if they can be. I don't see why not. If they can go out and help more people than I did, then fucking hallelujah, man. Why? Because I don't need to take the credit. I don't need to take the credit. What I'm getting is back here, the extra dividends of having love. Right there. See, almost all of our emotions, good, bad, or indifferent, are a dividend from something. They're dividends from situations. Okay. He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his one-time prospect is sober and happy. And if his next fallen case turns out in a later time to be his best friend or romance, then the sponsor is most joyful. But he well knows that his happiness is a byproduct. There it is again. The extra dividend of giving without any demand for a return. It's all it is. Your joy, your happiness, your gratitude are extra dividends for a job well done. So when we say you do something with nothing in return, you're probably going to get it back tenfold. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. And you're never really going to feel that. You're never going to feel that until you decide to cut off these emotional faulty dependencies. The really stabilizing thing for him was having and offering love to that strange drunk on his doorstep. That was Francis at work, powerful and practical, minus dependency and minus demand. In the first 6 months of my own sobriety, I worked hard with many alcoholics. Not a one responded. Yet this work kept me sober. It wasn't a question of those alcoholics giving me anything. My stability came out of trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. But he did receive, and he received in great measure. He stayed sober. See, if you sponsor and you are sober, you have a 100% success rate because you are still sober. That's the point. Okay. If they go out and come back, is it on you? No, but are you going to be there for them? You better be. We are forever people. Okay. Even if my sponsees don't talk to me anymore, they call me again, I'm going to pick up the phone. As long as it's appropriate at the time. Okay. Thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we'll find at the root of it some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands. Then we can be set free to live and love. We may then be able to 12-step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. Show them the way. The world needs this right now. The whole world needs this. Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes of death. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I have been given a quiet place in bright sunshine. Cool stuff, man. All right. Hope all you rewatchers enjoy that. I hope everybody has a great Saturday evening. I'm going to go play some Spider-Man 2, and I'm going to watch the game. I love you. Peace out, and have a day.